about hurricane parties.
We'll see.
Yes, we do. I do.
All right, are you guys ready?
Almost. We'll give us about another.
It's got an egg yet.
Not yet.
It's not. Do you have stuff pulled up on iComputer?
If you can record this.
Yeah, for.
I need a clicker.
But I don't really need.
I need a clicker.
Okay.
Both of us do. Okay, so to change the fusion, if I hit basically home. Oh my god, I forgot where it was.
Should I just do
Ox
the
bus.
BI?
Yeah, just do the BI. That'd be easiest. Okay.
Yeah, I don't want to lose the other thing.
Okay, there you go. Now we're good to go. All right.
I don't really need anything on the iComputer. The only thing I pulled up was the intensity
You're
stuff,
ready to go?
but I can talk about rainfall.
Almost.
Fusion.
Can you hit? Can you test the iComputer real
Yes,
quick?
ready to go.
Rachel, test the iComputer.
Hi there, we're just about ready to start.
Awesome.
So I don't really need the iComputer unless you want to talk about intensities.
That's I.
Yep. Hit it back to fusion, please. Okay.
Yeah, I'm not hearing anything.
I think we're ready.
No, you shouldn't be yet. We're not quite ready.
Oh, okay.
Stand by.
Second.
You ready to go?
Let me just get logged in.
If we are recording, can we ask everybody who's not Gainesville to mute themselves?
Sounds good.
All right. Let's go ahead and get started.
Okay, here we go.
So good afternoon, everyone. Jeff Hoffman here. Thanks for those of you who are joining us here in the studio. We are also making this available to our Florida Public Radio Emergency Network partners, and I'm joined alongside your forecaster Deborah Alberto. How are you, Deborah?
I'm great. How are you?
Came in early this morning,
Yes.
right? We are tracking Tropical Depression 9, and let's go ahead and show you the Hurricane Hunter data. I actually have to stay. We have a little script here, so let me see if I can stay on script. I know that we're kind of ad lib, but we don't have a named storm yet. That's the biggest thing as of 11 a.m. There is not a named storm. And Deborah, you were in early this morning. What's the latest, and why is it not named yet?
Yeah, the Hurricane Hunter jets did fly through this morning. They did not find tropical storm force sustained wind speeds, which is what we need, a minimum of 39 mile per hour winds. That wasn't found, so that's why it's not a named storm yet.
And until we find those, tropical storm force winds, you can see the numbers there on your screen, and we don't have another plane going out until early this afternoon. But that's what you're looking at in terms of the actual track of the system, and that's the updated numbers as of 11 o'clock. This system is still expected to intensify. We think it'll probably become a tropical storm. We've been saying this at some point on Tuesday. It's still Tuesday. Let's remember that. But we did see a flare-up of convection earlier this morning, and that could probably be enough to push it over to a tropical storm.
Yeah, as of the 11 a.m. advisory from the National Hurricane Center, they did say that it's likely going to be a tropical storm later this afternoon.
So when it becomes named, most likely, unless we have the other depression, number 8,
yes.
trump us here in terms of we're most likely to have Hermine. It's going to be pronounced Hermine. Not the. We had some people ask yesterday about is it the Harry Potter pronunciation? Okay, something. It's not Hermione. It's Hermine. We've confirmed that with the National Hurricane Center, and that's once again likely to happen later today. Let's go back to the graphics. I think next up on the list here, I wanted to show you what we're dealing with in terms of intensification. Actually, let's go back to the fusion. I mispronounced there what we were going to. Let's go to the surface temperatures of the ocean. Obviously, a lot of warm water. We have less wind shear in the next 12 to 24 hours. Right there in the the lower central portion of your screen, those water temperatures are 87, 88, 89. That supports a tropical storm to mature and to strengthen. We also have lighter winds aloft for a brief window. I mean, brief in the sense of like 24 to 36 hours. So in the next 24 to 36 hours, some strengthening or intensification is expected, and that is reflected by the National Hurricane Center's official forecast, so keep that in mind. One thing that may keep it from becoming quite strong is the fact that on the west side of the system, you can see over the western Gulf of Mexico, there's some of that brown color. That is drier air. and that could get pulled into the system and keep it from really intensifying. I mean, the South Central Gulf is a notorious location for rapid intensification of tropical systems. So that's why we're a little bit cautious and discounting the idea that this couldn't intensify, but there's a couple of things that the National Hurricane Center has identified that would potentially keep it from intensifying quickly.
Yeah, the National Hurricane Center, however, as Jeff is saying, even though it's forecast to be a tropical storm, it could be something stronger. They did say at their 11 a.m. advisory that not only tropical storm watches could be issued as early as today along the west coast of Florida, but hurricane watches as well because of the uncertainty with the intensification.
Yeah, so we're looking at a formidable tropical storm in the wind speeds right now officially in the 60, I think it came down just a tad, but 60, 65 mile per hour range. So if there's just a slight difference in intensity here, we're looking at a hurricane. That's why they may be proactive and issue a hurricane watch for portions of the, I would say it would probably go up somewhere from the Big Bend to just north of Tampa, just down the Nature Coast. I would say tropical storm watches are likely to go out somewhere from, this is just an early projection, somewhere from Panama City all the way down to maybe Sarasota. That's just to give you an idea. Once again, we're a little premature to decide on those at the present time. We're hearing some reverb. Thank you, Lynn, for telling us that. We'll try to fix that. I don't know if other folks who are listening can mute their mics. For those of you who are joining on the phone, we're doing our best to project our voice across the room. We are streaming this live. The URL was emailed, and we will ask for your questions here in just a minute. If you haven't logged into Slack, that would be the easiest place for us to field some questions from you, or, of course, over the phone. A couple more things we want to talk about before we kind of discuss coverage plans. There are some things we know and some things we don't know yet. Let's go to the rainfall amounts. Is that next on your... Actually, let's do what we don't know yet, since I have it pulled up next. This is the wind speed, and I actually have not had a chance to preview this because the new data just came in. Did you put a pause point on this anywhere?
No, I didn't.
Okay, well, if you'll notice on the screen there, those red colors, and we did stop the data, the colors, those red colors, let me see if I can manually do this because the data just came in, folks. So let me just manually adjust this. So here we're looking at 6 a.m. on Thursday. We have a formidable tropical storm sitting about 400 miles off to the west of Tampa. As we move into Thursday afternoon, by the way, this particular forecast model is running a little behind the others on the timing, so don't pay attention to the timing, but pay attention to the potential. Some of those red colors indicate close to hurricane force winds if this particular solution were to come to pass, somewhere between Apalachicola and Cedar Key. This is, once again, just one of several forecast models, and this is one of the ones that's showing a potential hurricane, Category 1 hurricane, and the timing would be later Thursday, not early Friday, if this comes to pass. But Deborah, tell us about what's more certain with this system and an update on the rainfall.
Yeah, right now the biggest hazard is the heavy rainfall, so potential flooding, especially along the west coast. But if you see here on the potential rainfall over the next few days, that goes all the way into Gainesville. So we're projecting anywhere from 5 to 10 inches of rain with locally higher amounts possible, up to 15 inches of rain. And you can see that's all the way from Gainesville down to Tampa, so near Pasco County, even down to Fort Myers. But notice how that goes further inland, even up to Jacksonville. They could be seeing an accumulation up to 6 inches. So even if you're not along the west coast, you should still take the precautions. We're expecting heavy rain across the board from coast to coast on Thursday.
And one other thing, I talked about the intensity forecast is in terms of is a bit questionable, and that's gonna play more of a role in terms of wind speeds and surge. There's a potential for surge here. There's still too many unknowns for all the other hazards.
Yeah.
One of those other hazards that we're not going to display just yet, but we are working on some graphics for it this afternoon, is tornadoes. And Deborah, you pointed this out to me earlier. The Storm Prediction Center has already kind of started to mention that.
Yeah, they have. And in fact, they actually called out Gainesville specifically, saying that there is a hazard for isolated tornadoes here, but mainly in north central Florida. And we're outlined, north central Florida is outlined for that risk out of the entire state.
We'll work on some graphics on that. Keep in mind, everyone, that it's a little difficult, once again, all the other hazards, wind, surge, and tornadoes, to ascertain until we have a better idea on the intensity and the exact track. But regardless, with looking at rain is the big story. And the good news here, this is a progressive system. It's going to be accelerating as it moves to the northeast. So the rainfall kind of follows the textbook here. And usually with a strong tropical storm, the heaviest rain is usually in the 3 to 6 inch, 3 to 7 inch range. With a weak hurricane or a Category 1, it's in the 5 to 8 range. That's the normal progression of the storm. This is not a system that's going to stall. We're not going to have to deal with this through Friday or Saturday. Timing on here is probably late Wednesday, where the conditions will start going downhill, especially along the Nature Coast and down toward Tampa. And then through the day Thursday, ending possibly quickly Thursday night, and by Friday conditions should be gradually returning to normal. Did you want to add anything?
No, by early Friday. I agree with that.
So some of our Gators in the room here are concerned a little bit about the weekend and football, and of course we think it's going to be moving out by then. We're not the only ones concerned about that. I don't think I have anything else graphically to show, but if anybody wanted to quickly ask a question, I do believe as it relates to the FPRIN coverage, keep in mind I would say using Tropical Storm Colin as a point of reference, this is going to be stronger than Colin. We're reasonably confident on that. So we were at that breaking point of whether to go to phase 2 or stay in phase 1, and I think for the sake of our sanity, okay, phase 2 is a lot easier for us to get you the information right away and as it's happening. So at some point tomorrow, we'd like to consider moving to phase 2, especially with the stations that will be likely wanting that. It includes Tallahassee, Jacksonville, here in North Florida, and the Tampa stations, probably the Orlando stations as well if there's a significant tornado risk. So some point during the day tomorrow, we're likely going to move to phase 2. We will follow up this afternoon with a packet of information that just is kind of just a collect all of everything. We'll send it out via email that includes everything describing the coverage phases, how to communicate to us via Slack, how to find things on Dropbox, and we will be moving into that phase 2 likely sometime tomorrow. That'll carry on into Thursday. Remember, phase 2 has a definitive start and stop times every day, so we can say, okay, for morning edition and all things considered only, or maybe Thursday we decide to do phase 2 all day long. At this point, unless we're talking about something stronger than a tropical storm, I don't anticipate at this point the need to do the round-the-clock thing with phase 3. But we're certainly going to keep an eye on it. I guess if there's any questions, let me pull up my Slack. If there's any questions from our FPRIN partners, I think we got the reverb maybe taken care of, but feel free, someone on the phone, if you have a question, jump in. I'm going to take graphics.
Can you just remind me of Deb's full name, please?
Deborah Alberto. We'll include that.
Derto?
Correct. We'll include that in the email.
Okay, thank you.
If we have to go into shift work, of course, you'll hear either or. That's how I should say that. Anybody from Tampa, Tallahassee, Jacksonville on the line that wanted to provide some input as to maybe helping us decide what would make you most comfortable tomorrow as to when we might move to phase 2?
Jeff, this is Lynn. I don't know if you saw my question, but when you were talking about it, there were some things happening in the background. But Apalachicola is in our coverage areas. So what should the kind of Tallahassee, Apalachicola, Franklin County, what should our area be expecting come Wednesday and Thursday?
Good question, because you're going to be on the north. You're most likely.
And tornadoes to ascertain until we have gonna have to.
I'm hearing myself.
And then
Someone may need to mute their phone.
possibly quickly Thursday, probably late Wednesday when the conditions will start.
If someone can mute their phone.
Depending on here,
I just turn it down.
Yeah.
late Wednesday.
Because you can still respond.
So, Lynn, if you can hear me, she asked a question about the Apalachicola area and the potential storm surge there. Most likely, as it stands now, the system is going to be moving just to your south, which places you in the not as severe zone for potential surge and coastal flooding, but you're still in the cone, and there's still very much a potential this thing could go as far north as Panama City in terms of the center. And if that happens, then you're looking at a much different scenario for the Appalachia Bay and the Big Bend region. If this was a strong tropical storm, remember, those areas from Appalachia Bay to Tampa are our most vulnerable areas in the state for surge because of how shallow the water is. They're not as most vulnerable in terms of population density, but even a strong tropical storm, I think I've already seen the Tampa Bay office mention water rise up to 10 feet as possible, even in a strong tropical storm in some of these areas. So that's something to consider. Don't quote me on that. An official forecast of storm surge will come out once once a tropical storm warning is issued. Yes, Jessica, I'll talk about Jacksonville. If you remember in Colin, we had a tornado, I think, in Jacksonville, and that was far from the center, and there was a very weak tropical storm. I'd say the other than rainfall, your typical areas are likely to flood, the low-lying areas. I mean, Jacksonville will probably get almost as much rain as Gainesville. Let me go back to the rainfall amounts. You're looking at 4 to 6 inches, maybe locally higher. The storm also will probably re-strengthen out on the Atlantic side, which should cause some wraparound rain that lingers in Jacksonville through Friday. And some of the coastal effects, Jessica, in Jacksonville will linger through Friday because of the strong onshore flow that will develop in the wake of the system. But generally, it's a heavy rain concern, number one, a tornado concern, number two. I have my doubts that tropical storm force winds could make it all the way across, but if it's a stronger than a tropical storm, certainly you could be looking at some minor wind damage and power outages. And speaking of power outages, I know that's kind of a storyline that we maybe need to consider a little more for us here in inland North Florida. I even think with the weak tropical storm Colin, we had some minor power outages. And so if we get 40 to 50 mile an hour wind gusts, there could be quite a few of those, especially after hours and hours of rainfall with the loose soils. The worst in Jax, Jessica, will be probably Thursday afternoon to Thursday night.
Yeah.
The outer rain bands and the potential for tornadoes could be starting as early as Wednesday evening into early Thursday morning.
Late Wednesday. Yeah.
I think we're going to see some rain bands start to look tropical in nature this evening, even here in Gainesville. At least that's what I was seeing last night when I looked. I looked this morning.
Hey,
It-
Jess, it's Susan in Tampa.
Hi, Susan.
Hi, can you tell me what we should expect here and in Sarasota County? Because we have a broad swath of coverage, and I just
Absolutely. Let's say the track holds true. The center of the storm comes up near Cedar Key. Tropical storms are not as tightly wound as hurricanes, so their effects and their potential hazards extend theoretically further away, but they're just not as severe. So the seas are going to probably start getting choppy, and you're going to have some minor coastal flooding as early as tomorrow afternoon and tomorrow night. The heaviest rain will be starting tomorrow night, probably lingering through early Friday just because of the flow that'll be continuing to come off the Gulf of Mexico. And in terms of you still have the water spout risk and the tornado risk as well, although the tornado risk is going to be a little more enhanced inland where there's the opportunity for some daytime heating on Thursday. I would say wind speeds, you have to consider tropical storm force wind speeds right along the coast as far south as Sarasota. Let me go back to the tropical storm. I don't think I showed this map on the briefing, so if you're watching, you can see this. Where's the tropical? There we go. Probability. There's the probability of 40 mile an hour winds, and all that area in yellow is in the medium risk, so that's at least 50% probability of 40 mile an hour winds. So that does stretch down to just north of Sarasota, stretches north up to Panama City. Brandon, in Orlando, what can we expect in Orlando? I think the similar conditions to Jacksonville. It's mainly a rain concern first, a tornado concern second, a low chance of possibly enough wind for some minor wind damage. Timing on that would be probably Thursday into Thursday night. I want to load one more graphic for you guys.
Is somebody talking? I thought I heard him talking. Listen to him. Okay.
Oh, I hear somebody asking a question, maybe.
And then
That's me.
No, that's you.
So probabilities of 57 mile per hour winds or greater, which will cause notable, widespread trees to come down, some power lines to come down, maybe even some minor roof damage. We're in the low risk across North Florida. I just wanted to show you that. I don't think there's a hurricane probability of wind yet. So, any other questions before we call it? We will follow up this afternoon with an email packet that has everything you need to know about Phase 2 and Phase 3 if we have to go there. We'll outline our coverage plan, and if anybody has any suggestions, I kind of want to know from some of the stations that might be impacted first, like the Tampa stations, maybe Fort Myers, if going to Phase 2 as early as 6 a.m. tomorrow would benefit you so that you are guaranteed the latest information at the top of every hour.
let's say the track holds true. The
That's
center of
myself.
near Cedar Key. Tropical storms
I'm getting
are
a,
not as tightly
sorry,
wound
Jeff,
as
I'm hearing a
hurricanes.
bleep.
Their effects and their potential.
If everybody who's still with us can mute their mics, please, so that I don't have to hear my lovely voice back to me.
Seas are going to probably start getting choppy. You're going to have some minor coastal flooding as early as
At least we know
tomorrow
the live
night.
stream's working.
The heaviest rain will be starting tomorrow night. Probably, so the seas are going to probably start getting choppy.
All right. So we're going to go ahead and call it. Is there any questions here locally from our team here? I want to say thanks to Rachel. Rachel, she's helping produce for us. And James. Where's James? Yes. Hey, Forrest, go ahead.
So it's been kind of dry here. Do we have any concerns about ponding, or will everything percolate fairly fast? What are we looking at as far as that kind of thing?
That's a tough call. I don't think we're looking at, well, river flooding is not going to be a big concern. Our rivers have gone down enough that several days after the system, they're going to be high. But I think flash flooding is going to be, as with a tropical system, even if you have been dry, too much water in a short amount of time can cause flash flooding. So that will probably be a concern. I mean, the typical low-lying spots will probably flood. This is a quick hitter, so it's gonna rain buckets for. I'd say the heaviest rain shield. I'm guessing based on the data we have now would last about 6 hours. So we're talking about a 6-hour solid dump of rain, with the bands, of course, before that and after that, the off and on. Okay. It's tough on the rainfall right now, but even though we know it's going to rain a lot, but it's tough on the exact specifics. Any other questions locally and how we're set up here? And all right, I'm going to go ahead and conclude the briefing. Thanks for those of you joining us online and via phone and here in the studio. I was going to give a camera shot to you guys, but you're all standing off camera. We will provide another briefing if necessary tomorrow, and I'm thinking we're going to have the tropical storm by 5 o'clock this afternoon.
Yeah,
There's been
definitely.
a
Me
lot of
too.
thunderstorm activity blow up right over the center of that low pressure center, as you
Yep.
can see right behind Deborah there. So we'll probably have Hermine this afternoon. We will be, in case anybody's still with us, we will be doing a Facebook Live this afternoon on our Florida Storms account. Maybe as early as 1 or 2 o'clock, or we may wait until closer to when they name it. So feel free to share that on your Facebook pages. It's difficult for us to share them on all of them when we're actually live, but feel free to share that on your own. So, all right, that'll be it for now. We'll follow up via email this afternoon. Thank you, guys. Go ahead and mute your mic. For those local.